I'm pissed. And this thing,
Yo.
I can't listen to this anymore. Those criminals need to get...
They're swearing? Chill out. Is ZZZ the new Genshin Killer?
No.
Sorry, that was a strange thing to ask. There's a lot of hype surrounding ZZZ, so I played a good chunk of it. And this video will tell you if this is the gacha ARPG for you. Let's start off with visuals. The visuals are top tier. Huohuoverse has always been good with graphics, but this time it looks like they've turned the stylishness up to 11. Each character feels so animated, and every single thing about this game is stylish. It reminds me a lot of Hi-Fi Rush and Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. The presentation is either these cool comic strips, animated cutscenes, or the Zoom call type dialogue that's common in most Huohuoverse games. From running it on PC, I ran into no issues with performance and not a lot of bugs. However, I've been hearing reports from mobile players that it's not so good over there. The vibes are very comfy, and it's super fun to see Huohuo tackle a futuristic world. And of course, the music? The bassline in most of these tracks are so rich and goes so hard, bro. Now, after singing its praises, let's go down to the very core and meat of this game. Gameplay. I'd split this game into 3 main modes: exploration, combat, and the slice of life story. I briefly talked about the story, so let's start off with exploration. The exploration is showcased in these TVs and solving puzzles in a top-down dungeon crawl. You can encounter enemies, and you're met with choices which can lead to more loot too. It reminds me a lot of Shin Megami Tensei, especially with the warp tiles and conveyor belts. I personally like the exploration parts because I'm a huge SMT fan, but at the same time, I can see why people would be put off by this, since it's a little slow. It's very annoying that pressing the fast forward button speeds up the animation, but it also skips all the dialogue. Story. The protagonists actually speak and have a personality, which is super fun. It's no longer your cookie-cutter, silent protagonist archetype. It's weird that the sibling you choose will talk less, so essentially if you want either to have more screen time and voice lines, you pick the other one. You and your sibling are the managers of a store, and also managers for mercenaries that fight monsters. You take commissions, doom scroll on Twitter, and pull for characters that will hopefully join your team. There is a skip button for the main story quest, but I found that it's too interesting to skip. It's so weird that the unvoiced dialogue can't be skipped though. The story slogs a little bit when Nekomata appears on screen, but other than that, I've really got no complaints. No Paimon, no problems. Now, let's talk about combat. The combat in this game is very simple. Smash the left click button until your skill or ultimate is charged up. If you hit your enemies enough, they become stunned. They'll take increased damage, and there's a force swap mechanic whenever you do this. In theory, this is great and a smooth way to transition into other characters. The problem is that you have 3 team members, and the way to decide which character to swap to is left click or right click. To remind you, left click is the button you're constantly mashing, and right click is the dodge button. You will often find yourself in an endless loop between 2 characters, and that third guy will just chill and do nothing unless you swap to them manually. I wish they set the inputs to press 1 and 3 instead of left and right click. The game's dodges are much clearer than Genshin's. It flashes blue for a second to tell you that you use your invincibility frames correctly, and if you press attack, you get a dodge counter. The current enemies also feel like HP sponges. They barely attack, and what's weird is that some of the melee attacks aren't telegraphed properly. But I guess this can be easily fixed once they ramp up the difficulty and release some glass cannon enemies. Other than that though, it's missing the complexity that I adore from Wuthering Waves. There are no heavy attacks, no jump button, no air combos, and juggles, which are super weird to me. Onbi and many other characters have launchers, but you can't really follow up with air combos. A lot of people said that the combat is lackluster, myself included, for the first few hours into the game. They'd be right. But if you look into the VR device, you'll see tutorials for each character, perfect parries, assists, and each character in the game has some special mechanics that aren't obvious at first glance. Heck, there are even hidden mechanics that are never taught. Once you actually dig deeper into the gameplay, you'll find that there indeed is depth. It's just that it takes you lots of hours of gameplay for you to notice that. The gameplay doesn't overwhelm the players with all of this information upfront, which makes sense since it looks like it's appealing to casual players. But don't be deceived by the presentation, because there's a good amount of depth for people who want to immerse themselves in the combat. They also pretty much imported the artifact and relic system from HSR and Genshin, so farming the perfect substats are still going to be very painful. Same goes for the weapon system. To reach the dailies and energy system, you need to play 5 hours of the game. That's right, you have to be that damn deep into the game, be able to actually interact with the time-limited daily chores that are core to the gacha gameplay loop. With that said though, the quests are really cute and cozy. The fact that your weeklies are essentially just going to the arcade and hanging out at the local noodle shop or cafe really enhance the slice of life aspect of this game. It's not as tedious as Genshin's 4 commission during launch, so that's already a major plus. There's also so many minigames in the arcade that they really didn't have to put all this effort into, but I do appreciate that they did. It's also great that you can pick what weeklies you wanna do, so of course I chose to take pictures of cute cats. Gacha. As with most Hoyoverse games, they aren't that generous with your starting limited banner pulls. They do have that guaranteed standard 5-star at 50 pulls and a 5-star selector at 300 pulls. Very important thing is that each character has special ability if you either have someone from the same squad on the team or has the same element. This, paired up with the fact that each character is designated one of the 5 classes, will make team building extremely rigid. I predict that there will be characters that could potentially be really good, but dragged down by the limited pool and team building, especially with the gacha element mixed in. This could be a gigantic negative for people who want to just use whatever characters they like. They have that limited 10 pull check-in event, and that's about it, I think. Yeah, there's a lot of free standard pulls, right? But yeah, that's about it. If I'm wrong and I missed out a code, then just let me know, by the way. Speaking of codes, here are the ones that I am aware of right now. Go ahead and claim them if you want. For now, I only have 2 complaints. The first one is the rigid team building as mentioned before, and the fact that it takes a long time for them to introduce these mechanics. As I said, it took me 12 hours of playtime to actually get most of the tools the game provides. This might be normal for more traditional games, but that really isn't the standard for gacha. This game's vibe is amazing. The story is interesting and gets straight to the point. The combat is simple enough for anyone to get into, but complex enough for those looking for a richer experience. I am personally conflicted since I cannot have 2 ARPG gachas, so I'm going to decide whether to drop ZZZ or Wuohuo. To most, ZZZ really lives up to its acronym, but some people want to lean back and chill game. Its strongest points are definitely the characters and the story. So if you're a casual that loves that type of thing, I'd say you should play ZZZ. But for me, I think I'll just sit back, relax, and remember the memories of chaos. That's it for me. My name is Kyte, and thank you for watching. See ya. Peace.